Welcome back to Pewdiepie. I'm Zui and I hope you enjoyed today's video. But before we get right into it, I'm obligated to remind you to click either the like or dislike button, commenting something down below, and of course sharing the video so more people can see and enjoy it. This is very important as it helps with the YouTube algorithm. I want you to know that your help is greatly appreciated. If you have any suggestions or ideas for a story, my Discord link is in my link tree that is down in the description, as well as my Patreon and Ko-fi for any donations you may want to send my way. Every cent counts. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed today's video. When Brian was first confronted with the burning pizzaplex, the day shift guard couldn't believe his eyes. He was quite literally watching his job go up in flames. Thankfully, by the time he had arrived, the fire department was here. Typical. The one day where he arrived at his job 30 minutes early, this had to happen. The distraught man made a few calls. First, the owner Amir. The Indian migrant was furious. Then his dad. He was the current CEO of ROBLOX. Clearly one of the best people to call right now. The day shift guard could practically hear the ka-ching of money he'd be making from this. Especially after he told him there was a few Fazbear higher-ups willing to rebuild. But only then he called a few higher-ups he knew would definitely be in support of rebuilding the pizzaplex, especially after his dad was already on the case. Obviously his plan worked out. Truthfully, he was just lucky. And then he sat down on the hood of his car as he began informing the other employees. Sure, except for him, no one really liked their job. Most of them just couldn't understand the hidden enjoyment of this almost fully automated entertainment building. But who was he to judge? He informed half of the staff, who then went on to call the others. The guards would call the janitors, and the janitors would call the maintenance staff. It was then the day guard heard the firefighters scream in fear. Quickly, Brian jumped off the hood of his car and rushed to the noise. It was coming from the delivery entrance. And the man's face twisted into a smile. Out of the delivery entrance, burned and battered, came DJ Music Man. And right under the giant robot were the damaged glamrock animatronics, plus the daycare attendant. And Roxy were riding on his back. They all looked horrible. Monty broken in half, Roxy missing one arm and half of her face, and Chica just looked like a zombie. Brian furrowed his brows. No Freddy, it seemed. Well, still. DJ Music Man was the most expensive animatronic of the pizzaplex, and him surviving felt like a sign of a higher being. Something he then celebrated by getting high himself. By the time you got Brian's call, you were already busy as a bee, crushing metal, shredding scrap. You worked at a Fazbear scrapyard. This meant any franchise around the West Coast would send you broken animatronics, pieces and bits. You were meant to sort out the still functioning parts and scrap the broken ones. In fact, it had been this specific scrapyard in your family possession for generations that scrapped the old toy animatronics from way back when. Later on, your family made a killing back then by simply keeping their shells and a few bits and pieces and selling that to an amusement park. Brian was clearly high when he called you. You could hear that out of his voice. Yet what he reported was incredibly distressing. The pizzaplex had burned down. Dang it. He wanted to go there next month for your birthday. Brian said he would send the animatronics to you. They were in bad shape, but you were not meant to turn them into metal cubes just yet. Fazbear was still considering what was cheaper, repairing or scrapping or making new ones. But knowing the track record of the company, it was going to be repairing with the newest stuff added to them by ROBLOX. The Glamrocks, or what was left of them, arrived at a lorry truck. On a clipboard you took inventory. Chica, no beak and broken shell, you muttered. Roxanne, missing eyes, missing arm, and... The robot began to sob and flail her arms. The two men carrying her immediately dropped her and took a few steps back. Most definitely impact damage, you idiots. You rolled your eyes. Monty then came in a wheelbarrow. At first you just thought it was a burned shell, but no. Monty, broken in half, missing limbs. You took a closer look. Jaw loose. You then focused your attention on the workers. I guess immediately on the scrapper of this one? Actually, no, let me check him later. I still remember that rotten Bonnie one we got a few years ago. There were still some parts. You shrugged. And the higher-ups were pissed off when I just jokingly said straight to the scrapper with you. They really wanted to reuse the parts of this one. These cheapskates. Next up was the daycare attendant. Soot, half-melted face, torn clothes, otherwise no observable damage. He raised an eyebrow. Good. You're one of the lucky ones. As of right now, the hyperactive robot was in factory reset mode, probably because he was making a fuss during transport. So you probably should restore his AI backups later. And finally, strapped to a big transport truck came DJ Music Man. Your eyes widened. Never had something this big in your yard. Your first action was to put all the machines into standby, as they didn't really have a true off switch. After you ordered them into a storage container. At least this way they would not skyrocket your electricity bill. The mood was pretty somber. The three of them who could actually talk said the same thing too, that they just woke up while the place was on fire. What was interesting to you specifically was the term woke up. It indicated that for a time the machines were either in standby or someone deleted their memories, making you wonder if there was something nefarious going on. You never know with Fazbear Entertainment. And while you weren't being paid for thinking, your mind went wild with conspiracy theories. It could have been Playtime Co. trying to steal the AIs so they can modify them for their toys. But it also could have been Bond's Burgers sabotaging Fazbear. That was less likely though. Bond's Burgers had locations pretty much only on the East Coast, meanwhile Fazbear had franchises on the West Coast and the South Canadian border. You checked your clipboard, making sure the animatronics were properly stored. In the sorry state they were in, you really didn't want them to be harmed by things such as moisture. Tomorrow you would clean them one by one, before locating and removing all usable parts and send them to Fazbear. As you walked back into the main workshop, you suddenly got a call on your phone. It was someone from Fazbear Entertainment. They wanted a quick evaluation of animatronics and potential reusable parts. As you went through your first observation list, however, you failed to notice the one animatronic you still had not turned off. While you were busy discussing things with the Fazbear representative, DJ Music Man awoke. Despite the robot's impressive size, he was surprisingly nimble and quiet. Not that he really needed to move. All he did was get up and lean a bit forward. It wasn't until he booped you with his giant nose that you shrieked and turned around. The curious robot meanwhile retreated his head. The teeth in his mouth shattered like he was laughing. No, sir, you said, panicking into the phone. I slipped. My intern forgot to set up a wet floor sign. You glared at the robot who tilted his head. DJ Music Man was confused. Where was he? When he had woken up like the others, the first thing he noticed was that his bouncer mode had not only been activated, but also his built-in virus protection had put the program under quarantine, as if a virus had infected it. just in case the diligent robot deleted it. Right now he was in plug-and-play mode. Plug-and-play was a mode that allowed him to connect to the arcade machines in the Western arcade to allow the games there to have special interactions with him. It honestly was the second most fun part of the day for him. But as he looked around, he realized that maybe playtime was over for now. Like a cat, he curled up on the ground, leering at you, until you finished your phone call. Sighing, you set the phone down and walked over to the giant robot. So, what was that about? The robot blinked. I am confused, he said after a while.
Where am I?
Fazbear Scrapyard. One of 3 Fazbear Entertainment-sponsored scrapyards in the United States. Scared, the giant robot pulled his head back from you. It was weird. He could squish you like a bug, yet he was also one scared of you.
I protected the others. I am fully functional. Please do not scrap me.
You blinked. You forgot to turn off his self-preservation protocol that made him want to live. Sighing, you walked to a nearby workbench and sat down on it. To tell you the truth, I don't think you will be scrapped. None of you will. At least not fully. You held up your phone. Fazbear wants to remove all the parts that are broken and replace them with new ones. They said keep the motherboards of the AIs intact as possible, because the servers of the Plex are gone. A loud, positive beat came from the robot. You then looked him up and down. Actually, by just looking at you, I think you're the only one that needs just a quick cleanup. You look pretty fine to me. The robot raised one of his arms and inspected it, before raising his middle section, looking at that too.
Affirmative. My shell seems to be functional.
I will make a system diagnostic, you said as you pull out your work tablet. And then we get you cleaned up. Patiently, the robot lowered himself on the ground, and you inserted a cable from a tablet into his head.
This feels strangely pleasant.
You furrowed your brows. He was making this awkward. Okay?
How long will this take?
He stuttered. I guess 5 minutes? The robot groaned, pleased. Words quickly appeared on your tablet as the robot continued to make it weird for you.
Why does this feel so good, having you prod inside me like that?
Sadly for him, though, you were soon done, and you had the diagnostic right in front of you. You walked over to your clipboard and added notes. Bouncer mode deleted. Minor damage to the endoskeleton likely caused by impact from debris. You raised your head from the workbench. Well, that seems to be pretty good, actually. I think you're the animatronic with the least damage. You smiled at the machine, who started clapping his hands together, excitedly. Before I clean you up, I need to know, are you waterproof?
Affirmative.
Great. I'll clean you up, then make photos and send them to that owner guy. He'd be pleased to hear you're functional. Especially with that bouncer mode of yours. Just up and gone.
But my warranty,
complained the robot as you opened the stutter door to allow him outside. Well, yes, that warranty is gone. Good job, you said as you walked over to the water hose. Also, big guy, please don't step beyond the cobblestone path. I'm not going to clean your feet multiple times just because you walked into the mud, got it? You said as he was about to step outside into the dirt. He then leaned back, slowly. Your junkyard had 3 sections. The office section with the workshop attached to it, right next to the entrance gate. The ground here was hard cobblestone. The middle section, which was just piles of trash and junk piled and piled and piled, with all the important utensils. such as a big metal press and metal grinder. At the other end of the property was your house, a small one-family building, painted grey with a white roof. Some metal ornaments you had made yourself from scrap metal decorated its front. The entire yard had been in your family possession for generations. You grew up here, and you're proud of it. You turned on the hose and pointed it at the robot. At first he tried to hide his face, but after a while he allowed it. Ha! This kinda feels like cleaning a truck. Kinda. You shouted over to him. The robot laughed, amused. You pulled the long rubber tube behind him. You cleaned his rear. He made a pleased, melodic hum, his bum quickly jerking up and down. He was really enjoying this, huh? Probably didn't get a good clean up in the cramped pizzaplex, did he? Now that you thought about it, it was kinda like washing a giant dog instead of a truck. Yeah, that fit better. How cute.
This feels very nice. Keep going. I think I can see some more dirt there.
He pointed at a place between his hind legs. You blinked and blushed a little. He made it awkward for you. Again. Still, this was kinda enjoyable, even if he saw it as something sexy. After he was cleaned up, you seriously considered using a power washer to get rid of the more harder stains, but that probably would damage his paint. Not to mention, it probably would make him say even more weird things that would make you blush. With a quiet hum, you turned off the water before shooing the robot back into the workshop, where he curled up again, lying his head down on folded hands.
May I ask you something, employee?
He said. Owner. I own this place, okay?
This owner. Could you spend some company with me? It is strange to not be surrounded by customers.
You shrugged. Yeah, sure. You sat down on his hand, deciding to play a mobile game for a bit until he was satisfied. He watched you intently as you placed your sunflowers and pea shooters.
Day shift guard Brian plays this game a lot whenever he is on break, which is about 70% of the time.
Guy's lazy, isn't he? You muttered.
So, this is owner.
The robot said, embarrassed. What?
I think I may got some water damage after all. Could you please run that system diagnostic again?
You looked at the robot perplexed. Pervert!